Absolutely. So I'm from Cork and I have an undergraduate in music and Irish from UCC. I love the creative arts, live events, and I love being involved in collaborative projects. I'm currently working in a corporate environment and I've developed a GRA for people-focused projects and initiatives. I found this course balanced the creative space and the practical space really, really beautifully. And it was a huge learning curve and a learning experience for me. The course has directly informed both my personal and professional projects over the last 9 months. My project in this course sought to understand the issue of generational knowledge loss among older people in Ireland, and I hoped to build a solution foundation to prevent the problem from continuing into future generations.
Ailbhe, that's very, very interesting because I've heard you talk about this on a number of occasions, and particularly this idea of generational knowledge loss. What is this and why is it important?
Absolutely. So generational knowledge loss is happening due to the ageing population in Ireland. Life expectancy in Ireland has increased 22 years over the last 100 years from 57 to 79, which is a huge change. The digital divide comes into this problem where older people aren't having the opportunity to record and detail their knowledge that they hold across all subjects. This is a cyclical problem because obviously as our population continues to age, we continue to see this divide and this lack of a central knowledge preservation system that will support people in actually collecting and preserving that knowledge for future generations.
Yeah, and of course we all lose out because of that. It isn't just that the older people or the older generation don't have access to digital tools, but as a result, we're losing out on this knowledge. And I've also heard you talk, Ailbhe, on a number of occasions about an inspiration you had for this project that you undertook, and in particular, your own grandmother. Do you want to tell us a bit about that? Because I think it's an inspiring story.
Thank you. My grandmother was a very meaningful inspiration in this project. She herself wrote and published 6 books in the 6 years before her passing in 2020. And these books they preserved her observations, her learnings, and her wisdom from her life experiences. And it really has been an exceptional source of comfort and pride for my family, both during her life and since her passing. And I'm sure it will be for future generations of our family too. This would have been the foundation of the project. I suppose, I became very aware that, this was a great thing for us and a great thing for her, but this wasn't the normal experience for people in Ireland in their older life. So that would have been the foundation. And then another catalyst that pushed the concept forward was the publication on Sanascan Ishka, or the water glossary, created by the Irish artist Caroline Connolly, who collected 500 Irish words solely related to water from individuals all over the country. She was one of the guest lecturers or the guest speakers in this course, and I was just so inspired by the work she had done and, seeing this glimpse into the absolute ocean of knowledge that's out there and held by individuals or held by localities, but that isn't necessarily recorded. It really just triggered the concept of this project to go forward. And I think that was a big part of the project for me was, how do we make this impact so that all older people are fulfilled and empowered and can share that knowledge so that their families and wider society can benefit from it in a really meaningful way. And I really hope to continue working on that to achieve that.
Yeah, very powerful. And Ailbhe, so what we're talking about here is action design research, where we're purposely designing maybe solutions that to problems or take advantage of opportunities. Can you just tell us a bit about what was your deliverable, or what deliverable did you seek to achieve?
Absolutely. So really, like, what I was seeking to achieve was the opportunity to give older people a platform to share their knowledge in a way that's respectful and empowering for them in the process, while also ensuring that the access and preservation of that knowledge is there for younger and future generations, to protect it from passing from living memory. So initially we looked at, and I was lucky enough to be connected with age-friendly Cork County Council and Cork County Library via Cork County Council, and I was connected through the teaching faculty on this postgraduate diploma. And they were looking to collaborate with a number of students on having social impact in the community. So using the guidance and the teaching from the lectures, I invited multiple varied individuals from those groups to be a part of the design team. And we initially looked at, maybe doing a one-off initiative, something similar to the water glossary, and doing interviews, and maybe, looking at going to schools, things like that. And through the process of design thinking, that concept really developed into the consideration of broad impact, and, the consideration of, taking on the momentum or implementing the momentum of people already in the field, already engaging with older people in this way. Because through the research, through the action design research, which looked at, kind of what was happening in the field, what people were saying on social media, I was lucky enough to interview a couple of people who actually are running events for older people. What came back from all of that was that there is a huge amount of knowledge sharing happening, both informally and formally, where organizers were seeing that maybe they hadn't actually organized it in a knowledge sharing capacity, but it was happening regardless, just very organically. So from that action design research, it really became quite clear that this was happening across the field, and that we really could have, we just needed to create something that would tie all of those dots together, and that could be used by people in any kind of subgroup to achieve the one goal, which was proving very attractive for people both in the field and outside. Because as you said, Paddy, there's almost everybody has an older person in their life who they'd like to preserve their knowledge. People go on and they can submit it themselves as an individual, or a group or an organization who's run an event of knowledge preservation can store their collected data. It's something that definitely actually will be its own project, because there is so much to consider in it, from functionality, from resource, all the way to GDPR and participant protection, which of course would be top of the list. What we did focus on was, how does that knowledge sharing turn, or how does that event turn to knowledge sharing, turn to knowledge collection, turn to knowledge preservation? So what we created was a 2-page framework to be used by anyone who was running an event or an initiative for older people in Ireland, whether their event was specifically knowledge preservation or not. And what it actually used was a technique commonly used in design thinking of the 6 honest serving men. So looking at who, what, when, where, why, and how. And effectively, the framework prompts, it doesn't offer so much guidance, it prompts the organizer to consider all of these things themselves in a very design thinking mindset way. It really prompts them to consider who are the people that they are designing this event for. Do they recognize the value of their knowledge themselves, or is it something that needs to be highlighted? What is it, particularly the knowledge, is that going to affect the way you collect it? For example, if you wanted to collect knowledge on local history, does that often happen, where one person stands up and tells a story, or does it more often happen in this particular group that people might be sitting around having a cup of tea and it comes out naturally? And to kind of consider all of those things. What we really felt through our design was that there wasn't going to be one set particular way that was going to work and was going to work for every group. And I think especially as well, that wasn't going to work for every individual. So what this framework aims to do is to prompt people who are in an expert position with that network and that connection already made to consider those participants, and to design with them in mind. So it is kind of, it was interesting even how the design thinking mindset and methodology kind of permeated into the deliverable, very organically. It wasn't something we had intended on initially or that we set out to do, but it did become a huge part of it.
Yeah, and that leads to a very nice question then, Ailbhe. Like, you talked about design thinking, action design research. We also use maybe design sprints. In terms of what are these to you, and and how important do you see them in terms of maybe your own future, and maybe some of the directions you yourself will take in the future?
Absolutely. So I suppose I view design thinking primarily as like a philosophy and a mindset that people and groups can implement in all sorts of scenarios. And for me, it's really about creating a thoughtful and informed solution that offers meaningful, positive impact to people. And people really are at the center of it. And I think that's what stands out the most to me about design thinking. I'm sure there's so many things you could say about the process itself, but for me, what it really is it's a process that supporting people and serving people. There's a lot of innovation, creative problem solving, and in my opinion, it allows implementers to be free thinking and very expansive in their approach, but it also supports the design and decisions that you make with observations, evidence, and deep consideration, which of course are vital to the long-term success, especially if it's being applied in a business setting. So it's for me, it's like huge, widespread, innovative creation with a really good structure to kind of document it and validate it for the purposes of all the practicalities of doing these things. As I was saying, I feel like this course really has and the mindset has permeated into my personal and my professional life. Um, I think there's so much of it that can be applied just to everyday interaction. Um, and of course then the workplace, I believe it to be, I think it's going to be a really big part of our future working life, and I really intend to make it a part of mine. Um, I believe that taking this human-centered approach is the only way to make sure that we're doing things sustainably and that we're doing things for the best reasons, which is always everybody's intention. Everybody intends to do things for the best reasons, and I do believe that design thinking encourages that to come to pass, because you get into the real nitty-gritty of thinking about the people that you're designing a solution for, and how it's going to affect them and what they might think of it, beyond just coming up with an idea in a boardroom and moving along with it. I suppose how I intend to use it myself, my main passions in life are working with people, or working for people, probably more specifically. I really feel that there's so much in our lives that move along so quickly, and there's little moments of things that happen. And I really enjoy being able to kind of create positive experiences for people in day to day. I absolutely love live events. Being at a gig or a sporting event, it's what is my major passion. I think there's nothing like it. There's nothing can replicate it. Especially after the last year that we've had, I think it's become clearer than ever that these in-person live events, they're really the thing that's definitely the thing that drives me. And I would love to be able to use design thinking in that sphere. As I say, because it's so human-centered, because it's such a human experience, I that's what I would like to work in for my go forward. That, and I think I believe the same about education. People electing to be somewhere for the same purpose, I think it's a really powerful thing. And as my career moves forward, I believe that using design thinking will help me achieve what I want to achieve in my working life. And then I do believe it permeates out to personal life as well.
Yeah, and some people refer to it as one of those, new age, and I don't mean new age in a negative way, but sort of superpowers. It's the power, one of these powers that we need to tackle some of the problems we have in this world going forward. Also, I'm really intrigued by something you said, Ailbhe, about your love of performance, whether that's sport, music, whatever else. But in a way also, and I wonder, is that one of the reasons that design thinking resonates so much with you? Design thinking itself is a performance because it's collaborative, it emphasizes co-creation. You have people in the room working together. And I just wonder, is that maybe another reason that it possibly resonates with you?
That's actually a really interesting observation, and I know exactly what you're saying, because I think there's a very particular emotion and feeling that I get at a live event. And I actually experienced that as well in different capacity, I suppose, during, some of the more like active group sessions where it really is about, having all these people in a room or in a stadium or in a concert hall and all being there for the same positive reason. Um, and looking to kind of, I think with design thinking, the thing that brings people together in that, for me and from what I saw from this course, people inherently want to help other people and want to make things better for other people, and it's a really moving thing to be a part of. And I think that design thinking is the only project process that I've ever come across that really brings out that empathy. And that was a really, I mean, that came out quite early, I feel, in the course, and it was what solidified it for me as, yeah, this is something I can see myself doing. This is something I think will help, and that I think will be, a big part of my life. And that was probably within about 4 to 5 weeks of starting the course.
Yeah, it just felt right. It feels right, and some would even say there's even nearly that spiritual connection where you're connecting with people nearly through empathy at a higher level, not just that you're connecting with them by physically being in a room. Because of course we weren't physically in the same room because during COVID we were maybe separated and we were working digitally. And I think that's a really interesting point. And it's one I'd love again maybe in the future to tease out a bit more with you, Ailbhe. Ailbhe, we had many people on this program, and we will have many people on this program that are working, some full-time, some maybe not full-time, but are also doing this course, this program. Have you any words of advice or suggestions or recommendations for those people that may be a bit worried about that?
Absolutely. I mean, I worked full time during this course. I was lucky enough to have some time given back to me by my employers to action the lectures for this course. So I suppose the first piece of advice is ask the question. A lot of businesses, will benefit from their staff being further educated, and I do think that this is a highly valuable course. So I think the first advice would be to ask the question. The worst answer is no, and things carry on. Um, in terms of the course itself, my advice to new starters would be get involved in all the activities, all the curricular and the extra. There's so much to be learned, even just from, we did writing sessions coming up to the end of the thesis submission, and the value from them is you couldn't write it, you couldn't plan for it. But I think, as I said, that the design thinking space, it just brings out such creativity and innovation from people in a very organic way. So get involved in absolutely everything that's going on. And something else is trying not to feel shy or uncomfortable sharing your ideas. And the philosophy itself, it really encourages multiple perspectives. And I think anyone who's practicing design thinking, they're seeking other perspectives. We're looking for people to challenge what we think ourselves, and because that only adds richness and depth to the process. And I saw that in my own project, and I saw it in the group projects that we did. And so being open-minded to being challenged and going into the course, like being excited to hear other perspectives, because I suppose design thinking really isn't about having a vision and executing it. It's about building a vision with people at the center and with people around you, and building that out as a very kind of collaborative thing. And I think that's what makes design thinking different. And that's what the advice I'd give to people starting this course is to be open-minded about it, and be ready for lots of challenge and some feelings of discomfort, but in a very positive way.
Yeah, and then actually, I know we had a mantra probably during the program as well, to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, and definitely trying to live that, that if we're not feeling uncomfortable, maybe we're not pushing, far enough in terms of the way we're looking at problem solutions. And Ailbhe, thanks so much for your time today. And
Thank
again,
you.
I know there's so many topics we could delve into, maybe even in more detail, and definitely it's something I'd like to follow up in time with you, and also to get you back in and talking about some of these topics to
I'd be
future
thrilled.
runs of the program as well.
I'd be
Ailbhe,
absolutely thrilled. Thank you
yeah,
so much.
thank you.